A big welcome again to all venerables, all dear friends. And I'd like to take the opportunity now to speak on Dhamma. And to begin with, I'd like to pay homage to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang namang sanghang namasami. So I'd like to speak today, I think, on the topic of wise attention. What we pay attention to. So like in the meditation that we've just done, and in meditation generally, there's an encouragement to pay attention to the body, pay attention to the breath, pay attention to the way it is. We can notice when we meditate, can't we? What is the state of mind? Is there anything that's obsessing the mind? Anything that's playing on the mind? Is there any worries or concerns? Is there any emotional affect right now? Is there a sense of well-being, or is there a sense of difficulty, anxiety, despair? And we can notice all of these things, and we're paying attention in such a helpful way. When we meditate, we're simply attending to what is, what's present for this mind and body. And this is surely very skillful way to direct our attention. And in everyday life, we can be guided as to how we pay attention and what we pay attention to by the teachings of the Buddha. And in many suttas, the Buddha encouraged us to direct our attention towards that which enables, encourages good qualities to arise, skillful qualities, skillful mind states, skillful behaviors, skillful speech. Paying attention to that which develops the skillful. Paying attention to bringing in skillful qualities where we can. And equally, to the encouragement from the Buddha is to kind of redirect our attention, move away from attending to certain things, to not give attention to that which is unskillful, that which is unwholesome, and to avoid bringing in any unwholesome qualities through attending to them, any unwholesome qualities that are kind of lurking in the background, trying to get a look in. We need to be very sharp to have this kind of ability to direct our attention skillfully. And it's difficult sometimes, isn't it? I mean, for sure, sometimes we can be caught up in ways of thinking, behaviors, activities, ways of speaking that are, we kind of know that this isn't going in a good direction. This is suffering. I'm suffering already, and if I continue in this way, in this vein, in this behavior, I'm going to suffer more. And sometimes we know that, like with an addiction to certain things. We know that if we take more food, or we drink that drink, or we keep watching those movies, we direct our attention in these ways that lead to, not very pleasant states of mind, not very easeful states of mind. But we can find it very difficult, can't we, to actually let go of these activities, these behaviors. But this teaching is very helpful, because we know at least that it's probably good to try and move away from unskillful behaviors. And when we start to recognize this, we keep the precepts, we maybe sometimes aim to take up some renunciant precepts, move away from entertainment, move away from trivial pursuits, and allow ourselves to focus on more wholesome ways of being, do more meditation, or read some suttas, or listen to a Dhamma talk. Even as we start to recognize the value, the benefit of letting go of kind of frivolous or kind of time-wasting or even intoxicating, unhealthy behaviors, habits, we can have a struggle. We can find it challenging to actually do what we know we want to do, what we know we maybe should do, what would be good to do. But we can still have very strong inclinations to pursue the kind of comfortable, kind of known, habitual ways of being. And then we get the chance to really work with the mind and to experience the challenges and also the benefits of renunciation. So that sense of, okay, I really want to direct my attention in a good and wholesome way. I want to give up this habit. And there can be a kind of, like 80% of me wants to do the right thing, do what feels good, do what feels wholesome, follow the teachings of the Buddha, and 20% can really put up serious resistance to this change, this stepping out of unfortunate habits. And we get to really work with this 20% of serious resistance. And this is a very wonderful way of practice when we actually come to the point where we're working with our attention, how we pay attention, and the willing to make changes to actually transform our ways of being, our ways of behaving, the ways we spend our time. And what I've noticed myself is that we can't just give things up just because we know it's a good idea to stop doing X, Y, or Z, smoking, drinking, movies, whatever it may be. It's really hard if we have a habit over many weeks, months, years of certain ways of behaving. It's really hard just to stop because it's attractive for us to continue in the same way. There's a great attraction within us for that which is habitual. It's like our comfort zone, isn't it? And it feels good, even when it's not. We know it's not great. for us, but it feels good on some level because it's the known, it's the comfortable. And so working with resistance and redirecting the attention is a really powerful and wholesome and very fruitful practice, and requires great patience, great kindness, and forgiveness, because we're liable to kind of take, 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, and maybe 2.5 steps back. But there can be a movement in the right direction, and that's good enough. Let that be good enough, And focusing the attention in this regard, we can focus our attention on the wholesome. We can focus on moving our attention away from the unwholesome. And we can also pay attention to what is progress and not pay attention to blaming, judging, criticizing ourselves for not immediately freeing up from our bad habits, our unfortunate habits. And the Buddha gave, a number of strategies for working with, we could say, defilements, working with unfortunate habits, ways in which we can help ourselves to move through this difficult area of changing, letting go of the unwholesome and developing the wholesome. Like I said, it's what we want to do. We feel we know how to practice and what's good to do, what's good to let go of. But to actually be able to do so is a process. And it takes great courage and great perseverance. And so we can consider, the Buddha advised, to really consider the unwholesome qualities that we may find are still bubbling away inside for us. For instance, anger. If I get angry, often I can feel perfectly justified. I'm angry because something's happened that's not okay. And my response is natural, and it has its place. And things need to be done. Things need to be said. Things need to be done to put the situation right. And anger can be very compelling, can't it, for us? Because when we're charged up with this very vital, very dynamic energy of anger or righteous indignation, we can feel very sure that something has to be done. And it's quite attractive. It's quite we really want to pursue this stream of consciousness. We really want to make the important changes that need to be made. Yet, we can, consider the Buddha's teachings again and again on anger. He would say, this is to be let go of as quickly as possible, not to be given any attention, not to be nourished in any way at all. This is to be relinquished, put aside. How do we put aside this compelling energy of anger when it arises? And again, it's a process. It's not easy to just drop it. There's a whole sort of upsurge, like an upswelling, like a volcano erupting, or the lava kind of pouring out, and smoke, and tremendous energy in anger. And it's actually often simply not possible to put a lid on it. No, it will tend to then just erupt, perhaps even more strongly. We can't suppress it, in short. No, we have to know how to work with it, don't we? and how to direct our attention in a way that enables us to kind of just manage to avoid allowing anger to move into unskillful speech, unskillful action, and thoughts that we may have around the cause of our anger, the wrong things that are being done, the injustices that we're observing. These thoughts, again, if we pay attention to them, we're liable to get hotter and hotter, more and more riled up, more and more charged, and more likely to speak or act in a way that we probably would later regret when the heat has come down. So, taking great care when we're angry, when we're upset, when we have any negative emotions playing out, sort of washing through the system, firing us up. We want to be so careful about where we direct our attention. And so the Buddha gave various strategies for this. And in this example of anger, for instance, one thing we can do is very quickly bring to mind the danger of this state of mind. The Buddha said it's like a beautiful person, young person, who's freshly washed and they have clean, freshly laundered clothes on. Beautiful. And somebody drapes the carcass of a dead animal around that young person's neck. The response would be one of disgust, revulsion. Get this thing off me as quickly as possible. In the same way the Buddha said, when we experience anger, let's remember this quality is unwholesome through and through. Can we relate to it, in the same way as this beautiful, clean, freshly washed and dressed young person would regard a carcass around his or her neck? Can we regard anger as this repulsive, quite disgusting, abhorrent, despicable, unwanted state of mind? And this can really help, because the energy, the attention, then, rather than resting on the cause of the anger, the scenario, and all the things that we want to do in the future in order to give vent to this anger, instead of paying attention to that and thus, firing it up, instead, we're directing our attention to the skillful and correct and wise attitude, which is abhorrence. No, I don't want this to take over. I don't want this anger to have any place here. I want to cast it aside, to let it go. This attitude, this wise attention, can really help us to not follow the course of anger, to not give any opportunity, for unwholesomeness to manifest around us, through us, when we're angry. We become very focused, we become very still, and we are really kind of allowing all our effort and energy to go into the letting go of anger. This is one way that we can deal with afflictive emotions, through paying wise attention. Another way the Buddha gave is to replace the anger with something different, something wholesome and positive. And this it may sound impossible, but as many of you will probably recognize, it's not actually impossible. It's quite interesting to notice that, and to appreciate that we can really quite radically change our world by noticing, paying attention to something other than the afflictive emotion. So somebody says something, I'm annoyed, I'm irritated. My inclination is just to say something back, to kind of lash out verbally, to give what I was given, tit for tat, how can they get away with that, and so forth. That may be the inclination, but if we're attending to the Buddha's teachings, if we have wise attention, we'll redirect to thoughts of kindness. Bring in a thought of well-wishing. It doesn't have to even relate to the situation. If that's a stretch, if this person isn't really somebody with whom I've had any positive interactions that I can bring up and remember and cherish and use in order to develop some kindness in this moment. If there isn't anything very positive there, okay, I'll just think of someone else. Think of someone that I love and care for and respect. Bring them in. Just bring them in to the situation. Allow the goodness that I feel, perceive in relation to this other person. Allow that to bless the situation right now. If one were a Christian, what immediately comes to my mind as a born Catholic is bring in the gods, bring in the angels, bring in the really impeccably wholesome and good and bright beings. We can do that. It's not like we're asking them to make everything okay. We still take responsibility for our karma, but we can bring in the wholesome, bring in the good. And just like taking a peg, the Buddha said, taking a round peg out of a hole and picking up a different peg, a different colored peg, and inserting that in its place. So we can literally take our attention away from the anger, the hatred, the negativity, and bring in the loving kindness, bring in compassion, bring in peace. It's wonderful to consider this as a practice, consider this possibility, because when we are able to experiment, to actually see the possibility of this kind of substitution of the wholesome for the unwholesome, then we can recognize that we have tremendous agency. We have tremendous ability in every moment through the ways in which we direct our attention to really transform, to really heal, to really avoid harm and suffering. We can do that. We can substitute loving kindness for anger, the wholesome qualities when unwholesome qualities are arising. How amazing. Another way that we can deal with afflictive emotions through right attention is, of course, to come back to the body, to meditate. As all of you, I'm sure, are very aware, we're not just meditating formally when we sit in a quiet place and have the wonderful opportunity to relax and to really recharge the batteries, to peacefully meditate. We're meditating all the time. Ideally, there's a continuity of practice. There's some degree of mindfulness of the body, of the breath. And so, in this way, as we're developing our mindfulness 24/7, except when we're in deep sleep, as we're developing mindfulness throughout our lives, we can start to notice how the mind and body are reacting to sense input, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking throughout the day. You know, things are happening all the time, and there's all sorts of responses going on here within this body and mind. And we want to tune in as much as we can to what's happening here, because this is very valuable, both to enable us to pay wise attention and to behave and speak and be acting skillfully in a consistent manner. And also we have the chance to learn then, don't we, from, you know, all of our experience. Wisdom is able to arise through understanding, through seeing, through attending to what is. And so another way of directing our attention skillfully so that the wholesome qualities grow and the unwholesome qualities decline is to pay attention to what's happening in the body. And when, say in the example of anger, when I get angry, somebody says or does something, boom, you know, I really don't like this. I'm really cross about this. The heat is coming into the body. There may be some clenching in parts of the body, tension. There may be kind of shakiness. There may be fear. There may be a strong sense of wanting to do something, to move, to erupt. And we can observe all of this. We can observe the reactions in the body, whatever they are, however they manifest. And if we are in a situation where we're triggered, a negative, some kind of negative or some kind of reactive energy starts to arise, we can notice, can't we, when we're practicing mindfulness and developing mindfulness in our everyday lives, we can notice, there's something here that's not peaceful right now. What's going on? Feel that belly tightening. Feel the breath becoming more shallow. Feel the shoulders tensing up. Feel these responses. And when we're paying attention in this way, the anger doesn't have a chance to grow. It doesn't have a chance to sort of evolve into angry speech, angry actions. We're far too busy paying attention to what's going on. How fascinating, how extraordinary. We can really learn about the ways in which reactivity, emotions, difficult, painful mind states manifest in the body. And it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to be with anger, but it's a lot safer to pay attention to what anger actually is for us than it is to react angrily, to act out of anger. We've lost the plot when we start to do that. We've missed an opportunity. The opportunity is a great opportunity for us. When we're triggered, when we have some outflow of the asava, the defilements, the deep-rooted greed, hatred, aversion, ignorance that we may still be carrying in the heart, in the mind, when we have a chance to observe these things kind of bubbling up from beneath the surface, you know, manifesting, it's deeply uncomfortable often, but it's very, very wholesome and very beneficial and very actually kind of fascinating. And ultimately, when we start to really pay attention to the body in a consistent way, compelling to see what's changed and what's actually happening and how the energy is moving, and how also our skillful and kind attention enables whatever afflictive emotions are kind of assailing us, it enables them to move through. It enables them to flow. It gives them a chance to really very fully manifest, kind of live their life, and then pass away. And we can sit and watch the whole thing. And there's no danger whatsoever then of any kind of escalation of the suffering. The dukkha stays with us. We're holding the energy. We're working with perhaps difficult, very powerful sometimes, painful energies. We're allowing them to manifest. And then we see how, like everything, absolutely everything, they come to cessation. And there's nothing quite so amazing and beautiful as seeing the kilesa, the defilements, the difficulties, the painful mind states, the painful emotions arising and passing away, and not shaking, not troubling, not diminishing our mindfulness, our peacefulness. And in this way, we can really notice how the way that we're paying attention is actually freeing the heart from suffering. We can actually liberate the heart from suffering, can't we, in these ways? And we can become really masterful, really kind of able to maintain a degree of equanimity, a degree of well-being, whatever is happening around us. And isn't it interesting how as we work with our karmic kind of predicament, that is the residue of greed, hatred, and delusion here, right here, as we start to experience negative, unwholesome states of mind, such as anger, or greed, or conceit, fear, anxiety, depression, and so forth. As we get to know these states, whatever they are for you, whatever ways in which you suffer, and we start to see how these states arise and pass, come and go, have their moments and have their cessation, then we can really start to appreciate there is a movement out of suffering that's happening here. There's a movement away from anger. There's a lessening of the reactivity over time. And it's really lovely to pay attention to this, to notice cessation, to notice progress on the path, to notice like the things that, really used to upset me, really used to annoy me, as I keep practicing and working with anger in all these different ways, paying attention skillfully. I'm just a lot less easy to upset these days. It's a lot of things that used to cause me distress, agitation. It's just not happening now. And I can look around and actually see a lot more of what's going on around me. It's interesting, isn't it, when we're upset, when we're reacting to situations, we often get something like a tunnel vision, don't we? I was walking the other day out on the street, and 2 cars came by going quite fast, and in the car that was behind, there's a young man who was driving and also leaning right out of the window and shaking his fist and screaming at the top of his voice, insults, hurling insults at the guy in the car in front, who probably couldn't hear him at all, but maybe could see him shaking his fist. And it was really interesting just to observe that scenario. Painful scenario, but just to see how it was with these 2 cars shooting along the road. And the sense I got was, it's just like that. It's like tunnel vision. It's like you can only go in this direction when you're so overwhelmed with negativity. You're so riled up. You're so agitated. Isn't it the case? We become focused on just this one thing, and everything else that's going on around us disappears. It's really difficult to widen the view, to see the bigger picture, to consider the other or the others around us when we're caught up in strong anger, fear, reactivity, desire, addiction, seriously wanting, obsessing about what we want. Nothing else exists for us when we're caught up in these strong emotions. And so we can start to notice how as we right attention, wise attention, and observe the slow but sure diminishing of unwholesome states, then we start to open quite naturally to the bigger picture, and we can begin to experience the very beautiful way of just quite naturally being able to open to the others around us. And so we can get to the point, say, with the irritating person who makes us so angry, whatever they say, we can notice where anger would arise, could arise, did arise in the past. There may come a time when that anger is no longer triggered. I can breathe through this experience. I don't have any strong inclination to speak or act in an angry way. I can handle this. I can then start to see the other person more clearly. It's like, who is this person? Where are they coming from? What's happening for them? What is it over there? And we can start to notice, much more clearly, much more deeply, much more in a much more all-encompassing way, why anger arises. What are the real causes of anger? Looking at the whole process from start to finish, understanding dukkha, in short. As we understand dukkha, we can come out of the suffering. We can cease to react, and we can really attend to what could actually be helpful in this situation. How can I put something into this that is wholesome, that is positive, that is healing, that is helping? And so we can really start to turn things around. And it's really quite remarkable then how creative we can be, and how much we can generate wholesome qualities and enable extraordinary transformation to take place. And this is relevant for us, I would say, on a daily basis, even a moment by moment basis, that there are so many opportunities when we really are operating, from a place of non-reactivity, from a peaceful heart. There are so many ways that we can, look around and see what can be done, what good can be done, what benefit can be added into this situation. So these are just some thoughts. Thank you. Some reflections on attention and how we pay attention, and how our skillful cultivation of wise attention can really change the world. So, Ewan.
Annamayam Dhammakataya Sadhu Karam Dhamase Sadhu 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 Anmoda